Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wants+Needs, Know the Damn Difference. My name is Christine from MediaBeacon. Here with me today is Jason Bright, founder and CTO of MediaBeacon. He is here today to share his insights on what it takes to successfully deliver on stakeholder wants without forgetting the underlying needs that drive the necessity for purchasing digital asset management software in the first place. Here's Jason Bright to tell us what you need to know.
So first of all, this is how wants versus needs mixed together you get weeds. And so we're going to talk about weeds and how to weed your garden and make sure that you don't end up with that with your digital asset management system. So first, what we're going to talk about, what really is a DAM? What is a digital asset manager? What really is the driving principle behind it? The process of buying a DAM, what really happens when you buy a DAM? A lot of people go through the process and in a fairly standard way and don't know that that's actually pretty standard. So everybody's a unique little snowflake, just like everyone else. So how the process is broken and how we can kind of avoid that and what the basic characteristics of a DAM always have to be. You have to be able to have a certain set of things that are associated with a DAM that you always need. Okay, great. So what really is a DAM? There are lots of opinions. First of all, the simplest solution to that question, or the simplest answer to that question is a DAM is a system of record. It's actually used to communicate to all parts of the business, all different kinds of media, and all kinds of different use cases. So it broadcasts, it puts packaging on, it does print, it does social, it does web. They're use cases about control and manage assets, and they're actually still DAM, but they're called by slightly different things. So there's brand and vision, the ability to control your brand and control who and what is seen about your company. To control voice and advertising and synchronize all of the messaging that you make available to your customers. And then there's product information management, or products, being able to have SKUs and know what they're about and have pictures of them and have videos of them and have commercials and the use cases and all that fun stuff. There's media and licensing, being able to have characters that you distribute and that you license. Those are all hugely important things that a DAM does. There's sync and share, where you distribute files and get files back and then exchange information with markup and analytics. There's work in progress, where you have the ability to manage a process in the flow of it. And there are hundreds of more use cases. So with so many use cases, how do you weed through that and come up with a solution that's going to be right for you? Well, the important thing is that you always drive towards that success, but you have to remember one thing. Always make sure that you know the needs for your business. Why is it that you will be successful with this? But you need to make sure that you have the underlying principles of any DAM, because each one of those solutions is dependent on and is crucially linked to things like metadata, simplicity of the interface. Training is always such a big bummer. Flexibility. No one knows what they're doing the first time that they do this. Scalability, the ability to add more people to it without having to re-engineer everything. And so you need to dig deep into what makes that need that you're applying successful, or what that need, what solution you're applying to that need to be successful. So let's talk about the process of buying a DAM. Okay, so really what always happens is you realize you need a DAM, right? So you have driving needs and you have driving processes. Like, I have an archive of copyrighted assets that goes back 40 years, and I keep redoing the same work. I cannot communicate with my partner businesses, and they are producing out of date, out of license content that they're distributing. I need to communicate to my customers the new branding direction that I have. I simply need to change the logo on 400 packages that I have. All of those things are driving needs and driving processes. And I'm going to use the word process or story throughout the presentation. And you're going to hear the word process and story as one object, right? So where you hear processes, that really is a story, a use of how you're going to use it. So each one of those is a use case that you would end up wanting to have a DAM. Okay. So what the next thing that happens is that everybody realizes that the DAM world is kind of complex and there's lots of information, and you end up with a stack of paperwork and you start looking for help. But then you get people adding wants to your needs. You start off with some needs, you start off with some stories, and then you ended up with a bunch of wants, because people are like, oh yeah, well, I could do this too, and that gets really quick, really big. And you got to remember, what should a DAM really be? A system of record, strongly attached data, so that the data is attached to the file so you can use it anywhere. Flexible data structures, because you never know what you're going to need. And then open standards based. You need to make sure that you can use the data in different systems and that it's open and extensible, right? No matter what solution you pick. Now, after you've selected, after you've started down the process and you've acquired an external consultant and you've gotten the point where you want to make the solution happen, you end up generating an RFP, RFI, and that's when you end up with the checklist. And the checklist is the weeds, right? So you end up with wants versus needs. You get a mix together. You end up with weeds everywhere. You can't separate the good from the bad. You can't separate your initial needs from your wants, right? And so we all get down to the minutia, and that's deadly, right? So you have to be careful about the traps, right? First trap that everybody falls into: hand off all responsibility, right? So I wash my hands of this. The thing that is terrible is that when somebody goes off and decides that that someone else is going to finish the process, they lose the flavor, they lose those stories. So not only did they not record them, but they also don't hand them off, and then the person with the original impetus is removed from the process, and you end up with an unguided process, right? And then you end up with this wants versus needs, and you end up with weeds everywhere because you can't define what it is that you want to do for real. And then you become a list of features and lose the original direction. And that's where failure really occurs, is where you've lost the path to success. And like all of the metrics and everything goes out the window, and we're all stuck, right? Okay, so how's this broken? Okay, let's put it in a list. Handoff from need to selection committee. So there's the need that drives it, then the selection committee loses the flavor. You don't document, you don't say what it's supposed to do, what the success looks like. Handoff to procurement. Once selection has been done, then procurement gets involved and they end up with another set of lists, and so they add more weeds to the weed field, and you lack focus on the technology. So one of the things that you have to do is that, like, you have to stay focused, and you don't have to just check every box. You don't have to water every weed in the garden. You need to water and check on the one that's going to make you successful. You look at the tree, you don't look at the dandelion. So right now in the process, a lot of people with procurement, completely isolated, you've washed your hands, you end up with a focus on technology lost. So you need to say, okay, what is my original need? How do I accomplish it? Communicate that to your partners. We actually at MediaBeacon tell people that we're not the right solution when we don't fit. That's incredibly powerful, because you end up getting a better solution and we end up helping you as a company, and everybody's better. When you only are a set of features and we don't know exactly what you're doing, and this is true for everyone, that you can't really focus on the solution. You end up having all these checkboxes again. And then you don't look into the depth of the technology. You don't say, okay, is MediaBeacon able to provide that stability, that strongly attached metadata, that interface, that ability to be flexible, that expandability, the central system of record technology? Can it provide that? Right? You end up asking, does it have yellow buttons on page 4? You know, you end up with some tiny little detail that doesn't help you. Okay, so lack of depth we just talked about, and future flexibility, right? So one of the things that happens is people buy a solution as an asset manager that ends up being very specific to a single folder structure or single database structure, and you end up stuck. So you need to be flexible in the future. So make sure that you understand what your needs are, and make sure that you plan for expansion. And hand off procurement to implementer. This is the last one that really gets in trouble. Is once the solution is selected, once you've picked it, once the committee has approved everything, then oftentimes people buy an enterprise asset manager, and then they pick a procurement, they pick an implementer, and so they'll hire somebody to implement it, who is weeks after they've selected it and weeks after the implementation team is now composed only of new people, and you lose everything again. So, you got 3 chances to lose everything. So plan ahead, make sure they overlap, okay? How can you avoid these? Ensure that you have an overall vision. Have a need, have a vision. Make sure that that's communicated throughout to every part of the team, to every partner, to every business. Make sure that they know what your vision is. Make sure that you capture the needs as stories, not just features. Don't write down the feature list. I know that that's very seductive, but make sure that you have a story as to what is success. And you don't need to be that technical. You just need to make sure that you have a list of things you want it to do, and then make sure that that's consistent. And make sure that your opportunities don't overwhelm your needs, right? Your weeds should be kept to a minimum. Make sure you dig deep on the tech behind your vision. When you have a vision, when you have a need, make sure that you dig deep on what it is that's going to make you successful. Understand what goes into it and how you can be successful. And then ensure that there's continuity in the teams, right? This is a very simple thing, but it's so overlooked. Overlap engagements, right? Do not allow handoff to happen on a Tuesday and a new team to walk in on a Friday, right? That is unacceptable. Make sure that you have a overlapped engagement between the original needs case, between the selection committee, between the procurement, between the selection, final selection, and the implementer. And the implementer needs to have access to everybody before, right? So that is truly the difference between a successful project and a failure project, right? And so thank you very much. I'm really happy to share this information. This has been incredibly important in our lives here at MediaBeacon. And if you can avoid some of those and avoid all the weeds that come up in that process, you're going to be very successful. And again, thank you for watching. It's always fun chatting, and I hope I've made your day just a little bit better. Thank you.